You know that feeling when your phone buzzes and part of you is just so thrilled that someone reached out,
Oh, yeah.
but then like another part of you just wants to throw the phone into the nearest river and retreat into an isolated cave.
Right, yeah. It's that constant exhausting push and pull.
Exactly. It's like we deeply, fundamentally crave connection, but we just fiercely protect our space at the same time.
It is honestly the ultimate human tug of war. I mean, it's the dilemma of desperately wanting to belong to someone or something while simultaneously being just terrified of losing our independence.
Yeah.
We want the warmth of the fire, but we are terrified of getting burned.
Terrified. And that tension, that exact precipice between connection and isolation is really where we are heading today. So welcome to our deep dive. For you listening right now, we are exploring the mysteries of the 12th gene key.
A very intense one.
Oh, totally. And since you're already familiar with this system, you know we're looking at a journey of frequency. So our mission today is to trace the transformational path this specific key outlines. We're moving from a deeply guarded, fear-based state called the shadow of vanity, breaking through into the gift of discrimination, and ultimately arriving at this seemingly impossible, unshakable state of purity.
And I should say right at the start, there are really no experts in this living system. I know I'm sitting in the expert chair, but,
Right.
but truly, there's only our listening. The deeper we listen to this, the more the mystery opens up for all of us.
Okay, let's unpack this, because to really grasp how this 12th gene key dictates our emotional lives, we can't just, float in the philosophical clouds. We actually have to ground it in physical biology. We have to look at our genetics.
Yes, we do. And the biological mirroring here is just profound. If you pause and consider the genetic code, it is quite literally a massive matrix of instructions for building proteins.
Right.
It's basically an instruction manual for how all organic life is built, and the body has to follow it to the letter.
To the letter. And within this instruction manual, there are highly specific codes that tell the body when to stop building proteins. Geneticists actually call them stop codons.
Which is such a great term.
It is. They act as these chemical signatures that essentially say, halt. The structure is finished.
Yeah, they are essentially traffic lights for our biology. They control the flow and the construction of chemicals in the body by signaling a hard stop. And in the grouping of the 22 codon rings, the 12th gene key represents the third and final of these stop codons.
Wow.
It's part of a group known as the Ring of Trials.
Ring of Trials. But it's also like a massive anomaly, right? It has this extra secret layer.
It does.
It's uniquely part of a code within a code called the Ring of Secrets. It is literally the only place in the entire genetic matrix where this specific overlap happens. It represents a profound point of closure. It's almost eerie, honestly. The idea in the text is that if the human journey ever comes to an end, this is the genetic key that closes it down.
Yeah, the final stop.
It's like finding out the final credits of a movie aren't just a list of names, but a hidden map.
Oh, I love that analogy.
But I have to push back here for a second because this feels like a huge leap.
Okay, go for it.
A codon is a microscopic chemical sequence that halts protein synthesis. How on earth does a biological traffic light translate into an emotional wall? Like, if this is a biological stop sign, why is the 12th gene key described as a dam holding back a vast ocean? What exactly is this microscopic stop codon holding back on a psychological level?
Right, it seems like a big jump. What's fascinating here is the underlying premise of a fractal universe. That whole idea of as above, so below. So what happens on a microbiological level essentially mirrors what happens on a macro psychological level. Just as the stop codon halts the physical building of a protein, the emotional frequency of this key halts the flow of connection.
Oh, we see.
It throws up a stop sign to intimacy. And regarding that ocean waiting behind the dam, well, we are talking about dormant genetics.
Meaning things that are just asleep inside us right now.
Precisely. There are codes inside the human body waiting for highly specific evolutionary conditions to be switched on.
Like what kind of conditions?
That could be triggered through environmental mutations or background radiation or even exposure to very high emotional or acoustic frequencies.
Acoustic frequencies, wow.
Yeah, the 12th gene key conceals something massive. That ocean waiting behind the genetic dam isn't physical water, obviously. It is a profound, overwhelming depth of human experience and ultimately pure love.
Okay, but before we get to that ocean of love, we have to talk about the dam itself. Because when that vulnerability is held back, It manifests in our daily behavior as the shadow of vanity.
Yes, the shadow.
And we need to be really clear here, because vanity in this context isn't about, staring in the mirror or being obsessed with your looks.
No, not at all. Vanity, in this specific framework, is the false, deeply ingrained belief that we actually exist as separate individuals.
Right.
It's the illusion of separateness.
Which sounds completely wild at first. If you're listening to this, you're probably thinking, of course I'm a separate individual. I have my own body. I have my own bank account, my own thoughts.
Exactly.
But the belief in this separateness is what creates the core dilemma of the 12th shadow. It's the agonizing balance between relationships and aloneness. The foundation of this vanity is a deeply unconscious victim-like fear. It is the core fear that another person has the power to take away your freedom.
And think about the mechanics of that fear for a moment. If you unconsciously believe that someone else can take your independence away, that if you love them, you will literally lose yourself, you are going to operate with extreme emotional caution.
Yeah, you have to.
That is the absolute hallmark of the 12th shadow.
Yep.
Extreme caution. It's the fear of being emotionally overwhelmed. It's the terror of just not being able to cope with the sheer voltage of your own emotions if you actually let the dam break.
So what do? We build walls, huge, insurmountable walls.
Yeah.
People operating heavily in this shadow state have these deep-seated boundaries, usually formed way back in early childhood, purely designed to keep people from hurting them.
Yep.
They become incredibly guarded. They only let people into their hearts in tiny, controlled bursts.
And you can imagine, or maybe you've experienced firsthand, how incredibly frustrating that is for the people around them.
Oh, yeah. So frustrating.
You give your partner or your friend just enough affection to keep them around, but never enough to actually risk being seen. It leaves the other person starved, always wanting more, while you feel completely justified in your so-called independence.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the intellect involved in this defense mechanism is astounding.
It really is.
It's like we're using a high-tech, laser-like security system to protect a house that's already empty. The 12th shadow possesses an incredibly sharp, laser-like mind, but instead of using that intelligence for, discovery, it uses it to cleverly push others away.
It analyzes people to find their flaws.
Yes, it creates completely unconscious belief systems just to make other people wrong. If someone gets too close, this laser mind immediately dissects them. Like, oh, they are too needy, or they aren't intellectually compatible with me, or they chew too loudly.
Right, anything will count.
Whatever it takes to justify putting the wall back up and avoiding the terrifying prospect of true emotional connection.
It is a brilliant, if entirely tragic, defense mechanism. And this creates a wild paradox in how these individuals appear to the outside world. On the surface, someone in the 12th shadow might seem incredibly collected, calm, and aloof.
Very chill.
Super chill. But underneath that icy exterior, there is a volatile, deeply open, loving being that is simply terrified to admit what's actually there.
And it swings to the extreme opposite end, too. Sometimes the 12th shadow doesn't look calm at all. It looks extremely emotional, maybe even a little bit chaotic or dramatic.
Oh, definitely.
They might dominate relationships with their emotional outbursts, but whether it's the icy detachment or the fiery volatility, the underlying mechanism is identical. The person is constantly seeking more space, and ironically, no amount of physical space ever feels like enough.
Because the space they are seeking physically cannot solve an internal fear. You just can't outrun your own shadow. All shadow frequencies are rooted in fear, and for the 12th shadow, the ultimate terror is not just loving fully, but receiving another's love.
Wait, why is receiving love so terrifying?
Because receiving love requires dropping the vanity of separateness. If I let you love me, I have to admit that I am permeable. I have to admit that you affect me.
Wow.
It requires opening the dam. And to the ego, opening the dam feels like death.
Okay, so if the fear is receiving love, how do you actually drop that vanity without feeling like you're going to drown? How do we dismantle the dam?
Well, that brings us to the breakthrough phase, the gift of discrimination. At the gift level, which is the realm of our genius, discrimination doesn't mean judging other people or being prejudiced. It's about learning to distinguish between behavior that is driven by the fear-based mind and behavior that is coming from the refined heart.
Okay, so this is the crucial turning point.
Exactly. Remember that sharp laser-like mind we just talked about?
Yeah.
At the shadow level, we use it as a weapon on others, analyzing them to keep them at a distance. But at the gift level of discrimination, we take that exact same laser and we turn it inward. we apply that utterly uncompromising honesty to ourselves.
We literally use the security system to dismantle the walls.
Yes.
But what does that actually look like in practice? Give me a concrete example of turning the laser inward.
Okay, let's say you're in the middle of an argument with your partner. They're asking for more emotional intimacy, and you feel that familiar tightening in your chest. The shadow impulse is to use your laser mind to dissect their argument, point out their flaws, and walk out of the room to claim your space.
Right, flight response.
Turning the laser inward means stopping in that exact moment and realizing, wait, I am doing it again. I am making them wrong because I am terrified of feeling this vulnerable. You discriminate between your mind's defensive story and your heart's actual truth.
You catch yourself in the act.
Exactly.
And when you look at yourself with that level of honesty, you start to break down your own self-imposed mental boundaries. The text describes this as a gradual process of re-imprinting.
Think about what happens when you don't run away. You drop the wall. The emotions you were so terrified of, the panic, the vulnerability, the fear of losing yourself, they finally rise up like a tidal wave.
Yeah.
But because you don't fight them, they eventually fall back down. You sit on the couch, the panic burns through your nervous system, and you realize you didn't die. You survived the voltage.
And that is the re-imprinting. You prove to your nervous system that the emotion isn't fatal. You begin to actually remember what love feels like. You start to let the world in again.
Right.
But I have to be honest, I really struggled with the next part of this concept. Oh, the wounding part.
Yeah, because to fully experience this gift, the philosophy suggests we have to let it all in. Not just the love, but the emotions of the world, the heavy stuff, even the wounds of others. It explicitly says we have to let it wound us and hold nothing back.
Yes.
But wait, doesn't letting people wound us just make us a doormat? I mean, if someone is being toxic, how is allowing ourselves to be constantly hurt by them considered a gift? That just sounds like a recipe for getting destroyed.
I get that. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, we uncover a profound paradox. It sounds like a recipe for getting destroyed only if you still believe in the illusion of vanity.
Okay.
The illusion that your core can be damaged by someone else. When you truly let the world in and you refine your discrimination, you reach a stunning realization. Nothing can actually wound you.
Wait, explain that. How can nothing wound you if you're actively feeling the pain? The pain you feel in those moments isn't a true wound to your soul. The toxic behavior coming from someone else cannot touch the pure essence of who you are. The pain you are experiencing is just a trigger. It is pointing back to a childhood belief system you are still holding on to. It's highlighting a false boundary.
Oh, I see. So the pain is just the laser security system alarms going off, but the house itself is perfectly safe. It hurts, but it's not fatal to our core.
Exactly. Once you deeply realize that your core cannot be harmed, you completely disentangle from other people's stuff. You don't need to be a doormat because their chaos doesn't define you.
Right.
You no longer need the defensive walls to keep them out because there's nothing they can actually break.
That shifts the entire perspective. It leads to this really beautiful realization that we actually don't want to be alone. All those years of throwing up stop signs, pushing people away, isolating ourselves, we just thought aloneness was the only way to feel safe.
Yeah, exactly.
What we are actually seeking isn't physical isolation. It's the purity of our own heart. And that purity doesn't depend on whether someone else is in the room with us or not.
Now, there is a very specific physical manifestation of this gift that we absolutely must touch on.
The acoustic part.
Yes. The genius of the 12th gift is described as being deeply acoustic. It is rooted in sound, frequency, and specifically the use of the voice.
The acoustic genius. This makes so much sense when you think about it. Voice carries our hidden emotional state, right? You can have someone say, I'm fine, but the acoustic frequency of their voice is literally screaming at you to stay 1,000 feet away.
Oh, absolutely. We've all heard that.
But when a person speaks or sings from this pure, undefended place inside, when they have dropped the vanity and opened the dam, their voice carries a completely different frequency.
They carry the frequency of truth. And that authentic acoustic vibration have a literal physical power to stir the hearts and souls of everyone who hears it. It shatters the illusion of separateness in others because it resonates with their own hidden depths.
Wow.
Think of a time you heard a singer, or even just a speaker, who moved you to tears instantly. It wasn't the words they used, it was the acoustic purity behind the words.
They were speaking from the open ocean, not from behind the dam. And when you operate from that place, when you realize that nothing outside of you can harm your inner core, the boundary between you and the outside world collapses entirely. You stop seeing yourself as a separate, fragile entity. And this brings us to the ultimate state, the city of purity.
The city level represents the divine essence of life, and the 12th city reveals a staggering truth. We are nothing but purity. The vanity we talked about earlier, that exhausting, fear-based belief that we are separate, was actually just hiding this purity all along.
It is the realization that the only true purity is purity of heart. And if we aren't separate, if everything is simply a manifestation of one single consciousness experiencing itself, then there is no external, there is no other to harm us. Therefore, no one can ever tarnish or take away that purity.
There is a very intense but necessary metaphor used to drive this home. Imagine you are literally locked up in a prison, experiencing the most horrendous, restrictive outer conditions imaginable.
Okay.
Your captors can control your environment, they can restrict your movements, they can do anything to your physical body.
Okay.
But they can never, ever stop your love. They cannot touch the purity of your heart.
Because your love isn't dependent on the environment.
Exactly.
That is ultimate internal freedom. But it also explains why the 12th gene key is known as the Ring of Trials. If you are embodying this level of purity, you are going to be tested. The trials of life aren't just possible, they are guaranteed.
They're part of the process.
So what does this all mean for us? Like, for you listening, trying to bring these massive concepts down to earth. I think about a river smoothing out a rough stone, the rushing water, the collisions with other rocks, the abrasive sand. Those are the trials. The conflicts with your partner, the betrayals, the moments of intense grief. But they aren't punishments. They are the friction required to polish the heart. The journey is about letting life's intense experiences polish us until that innate innocence, the unbreakable love we knew before we built the dam, shines through completely.
That river analogy is a perfect visualization for the process of refinement. The trials are the water doing the polishing. This raises an important question, though. Once the stone is polished, once that purity is realized, how does it actually interact with the world? There is a reference to a framework called Dare to be Divine, which points out something extraordinary about the 64 cities or ultimate states in this system.
Right. It suggests that all 64 of these enlightened states are actually just multitudinous names for love. Love isn't just an emotion. It is the essence, the heartbeat, and the literal home of existence.
And the ultimate expression of this specific city, the 12th, circles right back to that acoustic genius we discussed. It expresses its purity through the voice, through speech, through song, chant, or sometimes profoundly, through silence.
Silence, yeah.
That pure expression serves a vital evolutionary purpose. When you speak from purity, your voice reminds everyone else that they too belong to the exact same one heart.
It's just an incredible journey when you step back and look at the whole picture. We started at the genetic stop codon, that deep biological and emotional urge to throw up a traffic light, to isolate ourselves, to build a dam, and to protect our fragile independence through the vanity of separateness.
Yeah.
Then we use discrimination to take our sharp, analytical minds and turn them inward. We bravely caught ourselves in the act of building walls, and we let the emotional waves wash over us without being destroyed by them.
And finally, arriving at purity. The profound, unshakable realization that your core is entirely indestructible. The prison walls, whether they are literal or emotional, cannot stop love, because love isn't something you get from the outside. It is what you are.
For you listening, think about this the next time your phone buzzes and you feel that sudden, sharp urge to hurl it into the sea and retreat into your emotional fortress. That impulse, it's just the shadow. It's just an outdated childhood security system trying frantically to protect a heart that is actually completely indestructible.
The vulnerability you're so desperately avoiding is the exact dam holding back your greatest gift. You really don't need the wall anymore.
Exactly. And that leaves us with one final thought to ponder today. Since the genius of this 12th gene key is acoustic, consider the literal sound of your own inner monologue today. The voice you use when you speak to yourself in the quiet moments. Is the acoustic tone of your silent internal voice acting as a high security wall to keep your own love out? Or is it the song that is finally going to break the dam?
A powerful question to carry with you.
Until next time, keep listening deeply.